I'm about 60% in, and so far all they've done is walk. Hi, I'm Kirsten if you're new, and I usually make van life videos or van life content regarding like my van or my travels or my van build, but I'm really interested in doing book content as well. I love reading. It's my number one hobby, and I want to start making videos about it. So I had this idea to catch up to my 2024 reading goal. Currently, I'm 4 books behind, so my goal for 2024 is to read 40 books, and I'm 4 books behind, so it's not going so well. I think in order to reach my goal, I have to read 7 books a week, and then my story graph statistics says my average amount of time to finish a book is 9 days, so that's probably why I'm behind. So I have today off of work, and then I have tomorrow off of work because it's a holiday in British Columbia. So I'm gonna use these 2 days to read as much as possible and try to catch back up to my reading goal. This video will stop once I finally reach my reading goal. It might take till the end of the week, but I'm determined to reach it and to get back on track. Sorry if this is a bit confusing. So I was 4 books behind, but I'm filming this intro late. So as of this moment in time, I'm 3 books behind because I already read Lie With Me. So I'm reading this book. It's called Lie With Me by phillipe besson. Phillipe Besson. I've been wanting to read it for a few months, and this one person from the library was just hoarding it. They went past their due date by like 2 weeks, and I was like, is it ever going to become available? But it finally did, and I got it the other day, and I'm almost finished. I'm trying to finish it today. I just began chapter 2, and I feel like it's gonna have a really tragic ending. I was kind of flipping through the pages, seeing like how much more I had till the end, and I saw 2 words. And I hope I didn't spoil it for myself, but I feel like it's gonna have a tragic ending, and I feel like I'm gonna cry because the end of chapter 1 is already sad. So I just returned. Sorry, you can see my puppy's head. I just returned that book, and I got this new one. Can we take a moment to debrief and talk about it, because I made myself like a book bingo for this year, and one of the like bingo spaces was a book that makes me cry, and it's now nearing the end of July, and I still had yet to have a book that makes me cry. Oh, say no more, say no more. Lie With Me. Oh, if I didn't have to drive to the library right away, I would have sat there and bawled my eyes out and cried some more. Like, I knew I was in for a heartbreaking ending because, as I said, I was flipping through the pages and I saw 2 words. And guess what? I did spoil it for myself. But when you are absorbed in the story and you're reading it, holy, like, my heart hurts. Like, stop. The last sentence was so painful. Sometimes, like, I can read stuff and I don't care, but sometimes it really hits me. Something about just like queer love, it hits me so hard, because ever since I've come into like my own label of queerness and like finding that identity within myself, like, it hit so hard. Song of Achilles destroyed me. I think I cried for like 4 days after I read that book, and this book's hitting me hard. It's just like, man, I am emotional. I just wish we could all live in a world and just love who we want to love. I don't understand why some people aren't allowed to just love who they want to love. Like, being in love is such a beautiful thing, and I don't understand, like, it's not hurting anybody. Obviously, like, some people, they have their own opinions and their own beliefs. It's like, if you don't like it, then just look away. And if it hurts you, like, maybe there's something within yourself you need to work on. But man, that book was tragic. I never even explained what the book was about, but it's basically a really short memoir about a story that happened in the author's life. So the author's name is Phillipe, and when he is 17 years old, about to graduate high school, he falls in love with another boy in his class, but this boy is so secretive. Like, they do everything together in privacy and in secret, and once they graduate high school, they go their separate ways. And then I won't spoil it from there, but it just shows, like, how some people, they carry, like, such a heavy burden on them throughout their entire lives. And I'm just like, if the author had made that just one phone call, like, how would it have turned out? But the lesson of it is, like, we all think that we have so much time to do the things we want to do. The choices we make really put our lives into a certain direction. These two people, they both made their choices, and they both stuck with them for 20 plus years, and it had a tragic ending. Anyway, that was tragic. If you give that book anything less than, like, 4 stars, if you give it a 1 star, you are heartless. You cannot read something like that and not give it 5. I'm being lazy and I haven't been reading. I got bored, and then I'm like, I'm really hungry, so I went to get some food, and now I'm just chilling in my van. This is crazy. Stop. These ships are about to go into battle, and they need to make space on their boats, so they're throwing the livestock into the water, the cows, the chickens, throwing overboard bellowing cattle and other screaming livestock. I have no words to say about that. Just finished The Wager by David Grann. Sorry if I'm not, like, fully able to access my thoughts on this right now. My anxiety is just so bad, and, like, my thoughts are kind of elsewhere right now, but I want to review it while it's still fresh in my head, because I just finished it about, like, an hour ago or something. So this book is a true recounting of the Wager shipwreck, which happened in the 1740s. This guy named Bulkley, who was a gunner on the ship, he had a journal basically accounting for every single thing that happened. And then when the people got back to England, they like published it to kind of show what they had gone through. Here and there, as the years go by, more people from the shipwreck like keep popping up and stuff and accounting like their own version of what happened. So there's just kind of like a lot of conflicting stories about what happened, which is why the author put this together, is because he went through all the archives, all the journals, all the things that have been published about the shipwreck, and he basically put all of that information into a book that you could now read, which is pretty cool. So I gave it a 5 out of 5. I thought it was very disturbing, interesting, fascinating. I am so fascinated by shipwrecks, like even the Titanic. It's just so eerily fascinating to me. Just the things that happened to this crew is like, I cannot believe that this happened to people. And to give like a perspective, I can't remember how many people were on the wager when it went down, but I think it was between 500 to 700. And then the people who actually survived and made it back to England, I think it was about 10 or less people, which is just crazy. And one of the things that also blows my mind about this is how they used to live in the 1700s. It's something that I kept discussing with my partner about as I was reading this book, is like, I cannot believe people used to live like that. For instance, they had no knowledge about germs. They didn't know that germs or bacteria or anything like that existed. So you have like people getting their body parts blown apart during like the ship wars. Like this one guy had his artery in his leg or something like blown. The surgeon began to amputate his leg. No pain medication or anything like that. No sterilization of the equipment because they didn't know like that germs existed and that you need to sanitize things. And so they're casually just doing like amputations. And the book also has, oh my god, this page just came loose. I hate when people break the spine of books because it like wrecks the pages, but like this book is like completely broken in the middle, but there's this one diagram here shows like how they used to do the amputations. It's ridiculous. The kind of stuff they used to do. The men on the boats were getting scurvy because they brought a bunch of meat. They bought a bunch of livestock onto the ships. They were eating like mainly meat, I guess, and barely any fruits and vegetables or produce. And everyone started getting scurvy. And it explains in the book what scurvy is. It sounds absolutely horrific. There's a lot of like gruesome details about how their hair was falling out, their teeth were falling out, and old injuries that the body had healed like reopen because there's not enough collagen to keep them closed. And it's really horrific, and so many people were dying. They were burying like dumping 12 bodies out into the ocean a day because there's just so many people dying, and so many people died from scurvy, and they didn't know why. Because they don't understand that, you know, it comes from a lack of vitamin C, or maybe there's another disease and they didn't know that it comes from bacteria. So they thought that the scurvy was coming from a smell on the ship, like you smell it and then you get sick. And it's crazy because they thought that the earth had healing powers, so they would bury, not like the people on the ships because they were in the ocean, but other people, when they were trying to cure scurvy, they were burying people in soil like up to their chins because they thought that the earth had healing powers. And it's like, they were not far off because like the earth does cure scurvy, but it's just through like produce, not the soil. So they were on the right track. But another thing that stood out to me was on the ship there's this guy who's a murderer, and he murdered 2 people, and the other people on the boat are aware of it, and they're like, oh, that's not good. But instead of being worried about the murderer, they're more worried about the guy he killed that they didn't bury, because the ghost of that guy might haunt them. And then later in the book, they continually thought that he was haunting them. And I'm like, why are you more scared of the ghosts than the guy who's going around killing people? It's just crazy, like, where their thoughts were and how they interpreted the world. It's so different than how we interpret the world now. Like, now, if you were on a ship or on a deserted island and you know that there's a murderer among you, that would be really, really scary. I think that's all my thoughts, and I think that's everything I wanted to say about this. I think even though a lot of people are calling the ending unsatisfying, all the author did was recount the events that happened, and the ending is unsatisfying because the British government did not do its job. That's why it's unsatisfying. Don't blame the author for not giving a satisfying ending, because all he was doing was recounting history of what happened, you know? Don't blame the author. So that's why I give it a 5 out of 5, because I think the author was able to tell the story in a very engaging way, where I was interested throughout the whole book, and I just found it all very, like, fascinating. It's a few days later. I'm currently reading Salt to the Sea. It's a YA book by Ruta sepetys. Maybe you can tell by my enthusiasm. I'm not that enthused about this book. It's about 4 refugees who are escaping World War II, and I was interested in this book because, of course, it's about a shipwreck, and I did not read 2 shipwreck books back to back on purpose. It just so happened that these 2 both became available at the library after each other. It has good reviews, and it seemed like the premise was very interesting, but so far I am just so, like, underwhelmed with it. I'm about 60% in, and so far all they've done is walk. Another thing that's kind of annoying me is the chapters are so short. Sometimes they're only like 2 pages long. I just feel like it's so hard to connect with the characters when their chapters are so short, and it's like sometimes you get going in a chapter and it's feeling good, and then it just like abruptly ends, and there's like barely any descriptors. I love really flowery and beautiful and poetic prose, and this book has none of it. It will just say like pandemonium ensued, or she was pretty. Like, can you give more details? Like, I would really like to read more details about the world around them, and even like they're about to board a ship. It's like, what does the ship look like? Because all that we know is that the ship is made of metal. Wow, that is such a great description. Like, thank you so much. Like, I can really picture the world in my mind. Characters are just harboring so many secrets. It's like, I'm a killer. I came here to die. I'm holding so many secrets. And then the chapters end like that, like, I'm a killer, or like, I'm about to die. It's like getting kind of annoying when it's not even revealed what it is, and you don't know anything about the characters, and you read about them for 2 pages and then you're on to the next character. It's just, and I'm just like, where's the shipwreck? Like, now that I know how this book is written, it's probably just gonna be like, the boat sank. The boat sank. It's been about a day since I filmed that last clip where I was not very enthused with Salt to the Sea. Now, I finished this book maybe an hour or two ago. And here's my thoughts. The book is about refugees who are fleeing World War II. They're going onto a ship called the Gustav, the Wilhelm Gustloff, and the ship is going across the Baltic Sea to the other side to help these refugees escape the war. And so the book is about the journey of these 3 refugees and also this one sailor who works on the ship, and we kind of alternate perspectives from all 4 of these characters as they journey to the boat, and then ultimately the ship sinks in the Baltic Sea. And it's known as the largest maritime disaster in history. It was 6 times deadlier than the Titanic. But not that many people know about this story, and that's why the author wrote this book, is to bring more awareness to this tragedy that happened. And I really do appreciate the author for writing this book and bringing this this knowledge to us so that we can learn and become aware of this tragedy that happened during World War II and these 9,000 people that lost their lives on the boat. That being said, the way the book was written, I just didn't like it that much, and so ultimately my final rating is a 3. The thing with this book is that I just don't really like the way that it was written. You're kind of left to imagine everything yourself, even like the boat. The author does not even tell you what the ship looks like, except from the fact that it's made of metal. The book is written with extremely quick chapters. I would say the average length of a chapter is 2 pages, and sometimes the chapters are only like a few sentences long. Look at this. The same thing. It's also written in first person, which I think is a really strange choice, because when I think of first person, it's usually like only 1 or 2 people, and then you can really dive into those characters and really get to know them. Like, it's coming from the voice in their own mind, so you should feel really, really close to the characters that you're reading about if it's in first person. It's like the sentences are so short, like the paragraphs are short, and then the chapters are short. So throughout the whole book, you feel a bit distant from the characters, and you feel like you cannot really get to know them because you don't stick around with them that long before it's on to the next character, onto the next character, and it does like a rotation like throughout these 4 main characters in the book. And when you don't spend that much time with each character, you feel like you cannot get close to them because it's like the chapter ends and you're being pushed away onto the next character. Some people like writing styles like this because it makes for a quick, fast read, but I just think it was more of a detriment to the book in this case, more than helping the book along. Another thing I want to mention, just like going off of the characters' POVs and the way that they're written, there's 3 characters who, and this is like why I say it shouldn't really be written in first person, or at least maybe the author could have done better with giving them more distinct personalities. But Joanna, Emilia, and Florian, they all have the exact same like personality. Like when you're reading those chapters, if you don't read the chapter title and if you don't read who's narrating that chapter, best guess it could be like any one of them except for the other main guy who's the sailor on the ship, who's his name is Alfred. You knew when you were reading his chapters because his is like very specific and unique compared to the others, and I think the author did a good job with him. But the other ones, you have to go off of context clues, like what exactly they're talking about. So the ship had a limit of like 1,200 or 1,500 people, but they ended up squeezing 10,000 people onto the boat. And then when the ship was crossing the Baltic Sea, it got torpedoed by Russian submarines. And there was actually tons of other shipwrecks in the Baltic Sea during World War II. In the back of the book, it kind of goes into more about the history outside of the fiction story. And it was saying how like the Baltic Sea is basically like a big graveyard because so many ships went down in the Baltic Sea during World War II. Like 25,000 people have died in that water, and like people who go scuba diving down there, they report this like very eerily ghostly haunting feeling. As of right now, I hope I can put a little screenshot here, but I'm doing well with catching up to my reading goal for this year. I have only one book left until I'm back on track. The next book that I'm going to be reading is called Camp Zero by Michelle Min Sterling. This book actually Storygraph recommended it to me based on like other books that I've read and enjoyed. And then I was looking in the thrift store the other day and I saw this book, so I got it for about $5. So it's cool that I was able to find it there because it's been on my list of books to read for a few months. Hey girl, hey, if I look a bit beat up, don't mind me. My mental health and my physical health have not been healthing well. So anyway, thoughts so far. First of all, it's only been like 3 days and I'm already 2 books behind again. What? Huh? I don't know how Storygraph tracks whether you're behind or whether you're ahead, but I'm 2 days behind again, and it's like, huh? I just started. I have to read this, and then I probably have to pick up another quick book. I'm trying to read a novella. None are available at the library right now, girl, so I don't know what I'm gonna do or how I'm gonna reach this goal or how long this video is gonna be. Like, maybe 40 books in a year is just too much for me. Last year I read 36, which was over my last year's goal. So I was like, what's 4 more books? You know, I can do that. Apparently I can't. I'm failing very hard. I'm about halfway through at the moment. Oh my god. Say hi to my cat. Boozy. Aww. Boots. Let's get into the thoughts on Camp Zero. It's really slow paced so far. Like really, really slow paced. I'm halfway through and I don't know what the plot of the book is. Like, I get what's happening. I have no idea where it's going. Absolutely no idea. And this one, I think on Storygraph, it has only like 3.21 stars. I have a friend on Goodreads who rated this a 2-star, and a lot of other people say in their reviews that this book is confusing. So far, I'm not confused. Like, I get it, I just don't know where it's going. So basically, there's 3 perspectives in this book. There's Rose, who is an escort up in the Canadian North. And then there's Grant, who's like a teacher up in the Canadian North, in like the same area. And then there's White Alice. They're a group of women climate research, like in a different base, in a different part of the Canadian North. And so basically, the chapters rotate through these 3 perspectives, and I would give more info, but it's basically just like what the characters are doing day to day, and then kind of like their past and how they ended up in the Canadian North. So it takes place in 2049 and 2050, and basically like the United States and everywhere south has become too hot to live. So there's a floating city that rich people live in, and it's like off the coast of Boston or something. And then there's also like American companies trying to take land in northern Alberta, trying to make like a floating city, but in the Canadian North, because like everywhere south of Canada is too hot to live. The world is burning up from climate change, but apparently like northern Alberta is still like ice and snow, and which is like okay. Like I live in Alberta and it's just as hot here in the summers as it is in the United States. So originally, like when I was reading this book, I thought that it was set like way up north in Canada, like way up in Tuktoyaktuk or something like that far north, but it's only northern Alberta, and Alberta, even northern Alberta, is not that far north. Like what the heck? It doesn't really make sense. I'll continue reading and update you more near the end, I guess. Girl, what the f am I reading at this point? I'm sorry? What the hell is going on? Stop. I have about 35 pages left of this, and it's getting so weird. I'm just like, what the hell? I'm a bit speechless. I just read a scene where this guy is pleasuring a woman and she begins bleeding in his mouth because her time came early. And he's like, okay, see you tomorrow. She's like, anyway, see you tomorrow. He's like, yeah, see you tomorrow. Take care, bye. I literally wrote in the book, WTF did I just read? Okay. We need to catch up. It's been a few days since I finished this thing. So my thoughts might not be the freshest at this point, but you know, first of all, I'm gonna explain what happened. As I mentioned in the last clip, I had begun that book only a few days ago, and then Storygraph told me that once again I was 2 books behind, and I was like, it's fine, I'll finish this book up really quick, and then I'm gonna read a novella, so it'll be like a super quick read, and then after the novella, I'll be able to be back on track, right? Because that'll be 2 completed books, like back to back. So I finished Camp Zero, and then I went and got a novella. You know what? I'm not... should I even give this book credit? Should I even give it credit because I hate it? And... oh, hell no, girl. No. Wasp's trying to get in here. No way. I was like 1 day into reading the novella. I think I was like 50% done. And then I checked my Storygraph and I was like, tell me how good I'm doing. Storygraph. And I checked it and it was like, you're 2 books behind. Now that I've fallen behind again, and now that I'm 2 books behind again, it's like, I give up. I'm sorry. I give up. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can reach my reading goal. I don't think I can do it because all of the other books I want to read are really long books. Maybe I just won't read 40 books this year, and maybe I'll read like 38 or something, which is still an improvement from last year. So I don't know, I guess I'll see how the rest of the year plays out, but I don't think I'm gonna force myself to try to reach my goal, because at this point I'm like picking up books that like I don't really want to read just to try to reach my goal, and I'm not really enjoying the books that I'm reading, especially the novella I'm reading right now. On to my final review of Camp Zero. It was good. It wasn't great, and it wasn't bad. Basically, the book is just following their lives, so you follow them day to day, what they're doing, what they get up to. Rose is like spending time with her clients. Grant is teaching his students and learning more about like what the diggers are doing, which is the guys that he's teaching. Rose is there because she is trying to get a job as an escort in Camp Zero so that she can have a permanent living space in the floating city for her and her mom. So that's why she's there. Grant is there because he promised that there would be like a college campus and he was going to be teaching students. He gets there, there's no college campus. It's just like this lonely camp with a bunch of diggers who are like construction workers who spend their day digging a hole in the ground because they think they're building the campus, but they're really not. They're building something else. And then the White Alice group of women, they're at a climate research station like a little bit farther north, and then so we follow each of their lives, like what they do day to day, and then we get flashbacks of like their past, where they came from, and how the climate change affected them and how it led them to be up north. And then at the end of the book, the White Alice women, Grant and Rose, their stories all become intertwined and connected, and it's like I really didn't see how, as I was reading it, like how they were all gonna come together, but it eventually did. And it was fine. I just didn't like the ending at all. I think the ending was just really unsatisfactory because of how ridiculous and just like unrealistic it was. Like the White Alice women, they live their lives and they make these decisions that just doesn't make sense. It's just like kind of dumb. No one in real life would make the decisions that the characters are making in the book. It's just characters, they're all kind of like one-dimensional. None of them have any personalities. They're just kind of like cardboard cutouts. Initially was going to keep this video going and include the novella that I've been reading, but now that I'm 2 books behind again, it's like pointless. And this book is getting, this video is getting really long already. I don't want to put any more effort in behind this novella that I am really not enjoying. It's The Mist by Stephen King, and it sucks. I hate it. I have like 30 pages left and I give it 2 stars. I think the writing's really outdated. It was written in 1980, but that's not even the thing. It's the way that the main character is portrayed. I fucking hate this guy. He's a douchebag. He's a douchebag, and I hate him. I don't like him at all. I'm just like, I want this book over with so fast, and it just keeps going and it just never ends, and I'm like, oh my god. These are my final thoughts. I would really like to do more of these book videos in the future, and the more practice I get with talking about books and filming myself reading them and stuff, I'm sure that these videos will be more interesting. So yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you decide to read any of the books that I mentioned. Thank you for spending your time with me and for watching this video. Ta-ta for now. Cheerio. Bye-bye.